Hello everyone, welcome to the very first episode of Honestly Speaking, your candid companion to navigating the beautifully chaotic world of being in your 20s. I'm your host, Twinkle Stanley. If you don't know me and you don't know who I am, I'm a 26-year-old born and raised here in Dubai. So I'm your typical third culture kid. I love ranting, complaining. I'm a Cancer, so I cry a lot. And I recently quit my job to pursue content creation and social media full time. So if you see me a lot on your FYP, I apologize in advance, but I hope I entertain you just a little bit. I'm gonna dive right in with a confession, okay? Honestly speaking, you guys, and I'm not saying this because honestly speaking is literally the name of my podcast, but this is the third time that I'm filming my first ever episode. My first trial was with my personal trainer, Suhan Khan. It was a great interview, but after watching the footage, I realized this is not what I want my podcast to be. That video is still going up on my YouTube, by the way, because it is one of the most informative videos I've ever made, but it just wasn't what I wanted out of this. I think what I wanted out of this is exactly what I'm doing right now, which is sitting in my car and we talk about stuff. The second episode that I shared was this story time, which happened almost 2 years ago. And it was this super long episode of my last relationship where I got cheated on by a guy with 3 other women. It's a relationship that traumatized me, and which is why I'm single. And he also lied about having cancer for 6 months. It was about 2 hours of footage. I edited it down to 35 minutes. I posted it on YouTube as an unlisted link, shared it with a few of my followers to get their thoughts on it. They loved the story time. They think it was incredible, but you know what? It just wasn't me. You know, that whole experience. I know that it's going to do well. I know it's one of those things that if I post, I could be the next, I forgot her name. You know that woman who posted the 40-part series, Who the Fuck Did I Marry? Yeah, I think I could have been her. It would have got a lot of eyeballs to my podcast, maybe got a lot of attention, given me that push that I really need for launching something new. And the funny thing is that if someone asked me to talk about this a year ago or a year and a half ago, I would have sat down in my car and spoke for 6 hours straight about everything that happened, the details and how I felt and how it ended and blah, blah, blah. It was one of those things that I think really changed my perspective about people. It was also one of those things that I allowed myself to be defined by because it was such a funny story, right? It was mind-boggling. And the fact that I got betrayed by someone who I knew for 5 years just makes for such a good plot line. But somewhere in my mind, I moved on and grew so much out of it that I don't even want to talk about it like that. And I know I'm still kind of using that title in my podcast, but this is purely because this episode is about moving on and getting over things. Now, there are many stages in my life where I felt like I'm never going to get over this. And it's actually scary how often that was. And it's really magical and I think even funny that it's so untrue. Like the very first, I would say, breakup that I had was when I was maybe 20. It was after a very long-term relationship ended. And I remember I was sitting on my parents' couch because I hadn't moved out then. And I was almost lying upside down, I guess, because I didn't know what to do. You know how sometimes when you're heartbroken, you're like, what the hell is going on? Yeah, it was one of those. So I was lying down and I listened to this song called Promise by Ben Howard. If you haven't heard that song, it is a beautiful 6-minute song. I know 6 minutes is a bit long, but sometimes you really need a long song, like to even get into your feels. So I remember listening to that song and telling myself that I'm never going to get over this. That even at 45 years old, this is the guy that I'm going to think about. It's so funny for me to even say this now because 3 years after that happened, I literally went for his wedding. I'm not even joking. I was with him for, I guess, 6 or 7 years. And 3 years after it ended, I actually went for his wedding holding a bouquet. And no, it wasn't me going and proclaiming my love or anything. It was because my stupid best friend who came as my +1 thought it was mean to attend a wedding without gifts. To this day, that's one of my biggest regrets, to show up for an ex's wedding with flowers in my hands. Oh my god. Oh, I was such a clown. And I'm still so mad at her for making me do that. Like, I'll never forgive her for it, but it is what it is. But yeah, I went for that wedding and I remember I had a little bit of like an existential crisis right after that because that was the first time that I realized people move on. And I don't just mean him. I also mean me. Because at that time, I was, I think, maybe seeing someone else, or I think I was heartbroken over someone else. I don't even remember at this stage. And the whole time that I was there, all I could think was, holy shit, people move on and people actually find someone else and they go on with their lives. And how is it possible that we meet someone, we get so attached, we think we know them, we think we're going to last, and then it just ends? I just could not grasp that idea. And that was my first realization. The second time I thought that I was never going to move on from something was after my second breakup. So my second boyfriend and I actually confessed our feelings for each other when we were, I think I was probably 22 or 23, I guess. And it was at this party. There were people around, and there was this song called Cold Mess by Pratik Kuhad playing. Oh, that song, man. Hold on, guys. I just took a look at myself and I don't like the lipstick that I'm wearing. So let me quickly dab a little bit of this Fenty Gloss Shine in Hot Chocolate. Okay, that looks pretty nice. But yes, Cold Mess is such a beautiful song. And I remember the song was playing at the back. And that's the first time where we both said, oh, I like you. I don't know what this is. I think I may have feelings for you. And it was this really wholesome moment. And I think it was the first time that I feel like I actually felt what it's like to be in love. Before that, I think it was attachment and liking someone or like loving someone because I had that love in me. But this was the first time where I actually remember the feeling of being in love. Oh my God, it was very intense. Anyway, I loved that song. I listened to that song almost every single day for a year when I was in that relationship because I genuinely loved it. And then when we broke up, I could not listen to that song. Oh my God, I'm actually tearing up. That is really weird because I have never teared up in 2 years. Yeah, as I was saying, after we broke up, I did not listen to that song for an entire year because I could not actually. I genuinely could not function. And then I finally heard it after a year and it didn't hurt as bad. And that's the second time that I realized that you move on. Since then, life has been a series of me realizing very often that people are meant to come in and out of your life. And yeah, everything does happen for a reason. I know it's a little bit like cliche to say this, but sometimes you meet someone and they teach you so much. And the knowledge that you get from that sets you up for the rest of your life. And the guy that I fell in love with while listening to Coldplay also happened to be the same person that cheated on me with 3 other women and faked cancer. And for a long period of my life, that was the most significant thing. I used to tell it to every person. I would dissect it every single day with my best friend because I was in shock. It took me a whole year to actually process that even happened. And it was only after a year of finding out that I guess started moving on from it. And since these realizations that everyone moves on, it's also made me, I guess, take life a little bit more easily. Over the past 2 years, I also had a very close girlfriend of mine go through a heartbreak, and I remember her sobbing on my bed and she was like, I don't think I'm ever gonna get over this. And this is gonna make me sound like a shitty friend, but I actually burst out laughing because I said, you're so wrong. And I can't wait for you to look back in 6 months and make fun of yourself because that is so untrue. Like the fact that you think you're not going to get over this guy, oh my God, that is so untrue. And she did. In 6 months, she was actually making fun of herself and I was roasting her even more. And that's just how life is, okay? Things happen, but you move on. And one of the things that I think helped me move on the most was pouring all of that energy back into myself consistently, irrespective of where I was, what I'm doing, and how my day looks like. Every single day since then, I have decided to choose myself, do the things that scare me, invest time in myself, take care of myself, and just daydream about my future. And that has been the most rewarding thing in my life. I've moved on and healed from situations so much that right now, even if I want to explain heartbreak, I actually can't. And the funny thing is that at one point, that was all I could talk about, and that was all I could explain. Every time I spoke about heartbreak, I would get so many of my followers resonate with me and talk to me and feel less alone. But now, even if I wanted to fake it, I don't know how to talk about heartbreak because I healed and I moved on. And how freaking wonderful is that? In the 2 years of being single, I guess it's actually been about 2.5 years, but it's been almost 2 years since I cut off that person, and I prefer to kind of round it off to 2 years. But yeah, in the 2 years that I've been single, I have seen myself shine in ways that I never thought was possible. I've seen myself attract like-minded people and opportunities that align with the highest version of myself. And as someone who has been in relationships for as long as I can remember, these 2 years were transformative. I found myself, I challenged myself, I worked on myself, I started going to the gym, I got a little scuba diving certification. I grew up 3 to 4 roles in my company within 4 years. My social media blew up. I created a whole new stream of revenue that pays me numbers that I never thought was possible. I was able to treat my family to things that makes us spend so much more quality time together. The places that I go to now, the friends that I have, and the quality of life that I'm living is out of my wildest dreams. And it's because of the fact that a lot of horrible things happened, but somewhere in the midst of all of that, I made a pact to work on myself. Can you guys believe it? So much to a point where I don't even talk about that one thing that would give me even more likes and shares and clicks and sympathy. This is not to say that I'll never post that episode because it's already edited and it's on my YouTube. Maybe someday I will post it, but as of now, it holds no significance. Okay, now if you guys do see it pop up at some time, don't judge me, okay? I'm just a girl. At the end of the day, I'm talking at 11:30 p.m. in my car. Now that we've kind of spoken about moving on and all of that stuff, I actually want to share this thing that I've been doing, which you can very clearly see if you're watching me. I started getting my hair done a lot. I know that sounds very random, but this past month specifically, every single day I keep thinking about the highest version of myself. How does the highest version of myself dress? How does she look? How does she speak? What is her life like? And one of the small but consistent detail that's always been on my mind when I think about the highest version of myself is that I always have my hair and my nails done. I know that sounds so silly, and I know you guys are judging me because it sounds so irrelevant. Like, out of all the things that I could have said, I really said nails and hair, but it's actually so true. It's because I used to see women like, who had their hair and nails done, and I would aspire to be like them because they're always so put together, always looking really pretty and so nice. And that's exactly what I've been doing now. And especially being in the industry that I'm in, which is the beauty, the fashion, influencer industry, as shallow as it sounds, this matters. And I'm not saying that I'm the most attractive person or I'm very pretty and like my face is what sells me or whatever. That's not what I mean, but feeling pretty matters a lot. And if you've been following me, you know that I've worked on some really amazing campaigns over the past 3 years. And there were 2 campaigns where I remember during the shoot, I felt so ugly. And it's because I was surrounded by other women, barely women of color. So that's how it is, okay? When I work on big campaigns, I'm probably the only person of color. And it does make me wonder, am I here for like the diversity check, or am I here because they want me here? But anyway, those questions don't matter because as a brown person, obviously we just have to be grateful that we're there, right? So I'm very grateful for those things. But yeah, as I was saying, whenever I've been on those shoots, I've looked at the women around me and they are gorgeous. That's the first thing. Second thing is they've obviously got like work done on their face and everything, which makes them even prettier. And here I've got nothing done. And I'm not trying to brag, but it's because I'm genuinely scared of these things and I'm terrified of being addicted to tweakments. So I prefer not to do it. So yeah, I'm there without any tweakments. I'm there with my frizzy as fuck hair, which is very normal, but probably not normal considering I'm in the influencer industry. And I was also kind of unfit. Like, I felt unhealthy because of my unhealthy weight gain. So altogether, I used to feel really shit. And I always felt like I was not meant to be here, and I did not like that feeling. And that's when I actually got into my fitness journey, which I will be sharing about in depth very soon. And that itself boosted my confidence a lot. I started feeling very pretty in my body, very feminine, and started feeling really strong and very capable and very disciplined. So I highly recommend getting a personal trainer. But coming back to the topic, so once I got my, I would say, body in place and I started feeling very pretty again, I then started focusing on things like my hair. And the thing about getting your hair done regularly is that it's kind of like a vote for the person that you want to become. And I've realized that you don't become the person you want to become unless you do the things that that person does. That sounds like a riddle, but it's so true. If you want to be one of those women who are always put together, then wake up every day and actually be that person. If you're someone that is always comfortable and cozy, choose to be that person. For me, I've been comfortable and cozy for so many years. I just know that it's time for me to actually start working on myself a little bit more. So things like getting my hair done is a huge thing for me. This is not an ad, but if you're based in Dubai, you guys, I've been going to Juice Beauty Salon over the past 2 months. I do have a code, which is Twinkle20. If you want to get your hair done from them, please do it. I think it's 170 dirhams, and after you mention my code, you get about 20% off. You can use my code at all of their branches. Okay, I just needed to say that in case you've been thinking of doing the same thing that I'm doing. And yeah, it's a very shallow thing, right? But at the end of the day, as women, I feel like we do place a lot of emphasis on the way that we look. And yes, for sure, your brains and your confidence and how kind you are, all of these things matter. But if you look at yourself and you don't enjoy what you see, it's okay to change that, and it's okay to be a little bit superficial as long as you don't completely lose sight of who you are as a person. One of the other things that I've been doing to kind of improve the quality of my life a little bit more is something I've been doing, I guess, for the past couple of years, but now I've been really focusing on it, and it is drilling the concept of delayed gratification into my head. I'm so used to getting things very quickly that I don't commit to long-term projects. I find it very hard to start something from scratch. But this year, I've made it a mission that no matter how hard it is, no matter how demotivating it is, I will do the work and I will reap the benefits in 6 to 12 months, which is still not that long, but for me, it is quite long. So this podcast was actually one of those things. It's quite hard to launch a podcast because it's hard for advertisers to envision themselves being a part of a podcast, right? But in my head, I want to put in the work and I want to post these episodes, even if it gets nothing for a couple of months. And then maybe it's in my 12th month that something big happens and then things will just fall into place. Delayed gratification is also what gave me a body that I'm very comfortable in, because when you go to the gym, you don't see any results for months, weeks. And then one day you wake up and you just notice how good you look. So I know that delayed gratification worked for me there. And my last segment for this episode is going to be one more thing that I've been working on, which is priming my brain. So let me explain that. This does kind of go hand in hand with delayed gratification, gratification, but sometimes what happens is when we want to do something, right, we expect everything to make sense immediately. And when it doesn't make sense, we get very lost, we get confused, and we lose our motivation. So now I have this thing called priming my brain, where I give myself 3 months to feel the confusion. Priming is maybe the act of kind of exposing yourself to different things. When we are starting something new, our brain has to work in ways that it has not before. Your brain is creating new neural paths. Oh my god, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. There is a specific term for this. Neural pathways, yes. And the more you practice it and the more you practice those thoughts, your neural pathways become very strong. That's when they are developed. So that's why the first couple of times you do something, it becomes a little bit hard. But over time, with practice, it comes easy to you. That's because your brain has already created those neural pathways. Like this podcast, for example. You might watch this and think that I've just got it together. But if you look at me, you guys, I'm literally in the parking lot of Dubai Hills Mall with a light from my car. And if this doesn't scream, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, I don't know what does. But all I'm telling myself is this is just me priming my brain, which means I'm exposing myself to the new information that I am now taking on. How to launch a podcast, how to speak, how to better structure my thoughts. Right now I feel lost, I feel confused, I don't know what I should be doing. But by doing it more and more, I will get better at it. And just by creating this 3-month priming period in my brain, I allow myself to also make mistakes and to be confused and to be lost. And it's been one of the biggest mindset shifts that I have made this year, and I can already feel myself improve because of it. So if you're starting something new and you don't know what you're doing, just know that your brain is working overtime, and before you know it, you will have all the knowledge and all the expertise to excel in whatever you're doing. And with that, you guys, we are wrapping up our very first episode of Honestly Speaking. I hope once and for all, this is the episode that makes it to my YouTube and Spotify, because this is actually when I feel like I've connected with you the most. This is so me, actually. I sit in the car with my best friends and we just talk all the time. We get something to drink and then we play good music and we chill. And I feel like that's exactly what we did today. In my next episode, I'm going to be talking about being an introvert or an ambivert or someone that's quite antisocial, how I navigate that, and the discomfort that I feel whenever I attend influencer events. This isn't a dig at the industry. It is just me always feeling out of place. So make sure to subscribe to my podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and my YouTube channel to stay tuned. In the next episode, I'm also going to be reviewing this new book that I'm reading called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie or Dale Carnegie. I did pronounce this completely wrong and someone corrected me, but I forgot to listen to the right pronunciation. So if I'm butchering this person's name, I'm absolutely sorry. But I've started reading this book and it is really insightful. So I'm excited to be doing my little book notes with you guys. So if you have some time today, download that book, read through it, and we will discuss it in the next episode of Honestly Speaking. This is your host, Twinkle Stanley. I'm signing off now. So see you another time. Mwah.